100 years ago, a woman wrote a book that was under 100 pages long. No marketing, no publisher push, no social media. And that little book quietly ended up in the hands of millions of people. And it's still selling today. Her name was Florence Scovel Shinn. And she opened that book with a line that basically insults how most of us are living. She said, "Most people think life is a battle. It's not a battle, it's a game." Now here's why that one sentence matters. If life is a battle, you win by being stronger. If life is a game, you win by knowing the rules. And she says there are 4 rules. 4. That's it. I've read this book 3 times, and there's one chapter, chapter 2, that almost everybody skips past. And it's the one that actually explains why your goals keep stalling out right before they land. That's later in the video. Let's get into it. Part 1. Life is a game, and you're already playing. So, right at the start of the book, Shinn makes a claim that sounds simple and is actually kind of brutal. She says you're already playing this game, whether you know the rules or not. You've been playing since you were born. Which means, and stay with me here, the reason things aren't working isn't that the universe is punishing you. It isn't that you're unlucky. It isn't that you're not working hard enough. It's that you're breaking a rule you don't know exists. And that reframe alone changes the question you ask. Most people ask, why is this happening to me? Shinn says the better question is, which law am I not understanding yet? The first rule of the game she gives is the oldest one in the book, literally. She pulls it straight out of scripture. Whatever you send out comes back. Give hate, receive hate. Give love, receive love. Give criticism, you already know. She calls the game giving and receiving, and she says it works with what she calls astounding accuracy. She actually tells this story about a friend of hers who was always snapping at her aunt at dinner. One night she says, "No more talk. I want to eat in peace." Next day, completely different woman, different restaurant, a lunch she was trying to impress somebody at. And that woman says the exact same sentence back to her, word for word. Shinn's point isn't, be nice. Her point is that the return address is always you. Part 2. The chapter everybody skips. Okay, this is the one I mentioned. Because Shinn doesn't just say, think positive, and leave you there. She actually breaks the mind into 3 parts. And once you see this, a lot of your own behavior suddenly makes sense. 1. The subconscious. She describes it as power without direction. Like steam, like electricity. It has no opinion. It doesn't judge. It doesn't get the joke. It just executes. 2. The conscious mind, the reasoning mind. This is the one that looks at your life and reports back what it appears to be. Bills, diagnosis, the bank account. And then it hands that picture down to the subconscious. 3. The superconscious. She calls it the God mind within, the realm of the perfect idea, the version of your life that already exists as a blueprint. Now here's the part that I think is genuinely underrated. She says the subconscious mind has no sense of humor. Say that again, no sense of humor. She tells this story about a woman who was exhausted with running her big home. And she kept saying, half joking, "I'm so sick of all this. I wish I just lived in a trunk." Years later, that woman is in poverty. And she says to Shinn, "I'm living in that trunk now." She spoke herself into a trunk. Another one, woman with real money, joking constantly about getting ready for the poorhouse. A few years later, nearly destitute. And Shinn's not saying the words were magic spells. She's saying the subconscious took the order literally, because that's the only way it takes anything. She calls the imagination the scissors of the mind, cutting, day after day, the pictures you keep showing it. And eventually, you meet your own creations walking around in your outer world. So when she says, guard your imagination with all diligence, that's not poetry to her. That's operating instructions. Part 3. Your word is doing something right now. Quick one. Let me test something with you. For the next 24 hours, just count how many times you say something against yourself. I never have enough time. I always get sick this time of year. Things never work out for me. I'm terrible with money. Most people are shocked, not because they're negative people, because they had no idea how often it was happening. Shinn wrote an entire chapter on this, and then wrote 2 more books just about the spoken word. That's how central it was to her. She tells this one about a man who said, "I always miss my streetcar. It pulls out just as I get there." And his own daughter, same household, said, "I always catch it. It shows up right as I arrive." Both of them were right, for years. She said each of them had written a private law for himself, one of failure, one of success. And look, the modern version of this is just identity. Your words are the most visible layer of what you actually believe. You can't always catch a thought, but you can absolutely catch a sentence coming out of your mouth. That's why this is the most practical rule in the whole book. Thoughts are slippery. Words are catchable. She also said something that hit me the first time I read it, that a person who knows this becomes very, very careful about what she calls old-fashioned chats. You know the ones. An hour on the phone, 500 to 1,000 words about loss, lack, failure, and who's sick. She says, "I've had enough of those. They're too expensive." Too expensive, I love that. Part 4. Non-resistance. The rule nobody wants to hear. Now this is the one people fight her on. Shinn says, nothing on earth can resist a person who is completely non-resistant. She points out that the Chinese called water the most powerful element, precisely because it doesn't resist. It doesn't argue with the rock. It just keeps going, and eventually the rock is gone. Her whole claim is this: whatever you resist emotionally, you stay tied to. Fear keeps fear alive. Resentment keeps the past alive. The energy you spend fighting something is very often the exact energy feeding it. And she has this story that I think about a lot. A student of hers refused to walk under ladders, terrified of it. Shinn tells her, if you're afraid of it, you're admitting there are two powers, not one. Go walk under the next ladder you see. A few days later, the woman goes to her bank, to her safe deposit box, and there's a ladder standing directly in her path. She turns around, walks out, gets to the street, and Shinn's words are ringing in her ears. So she goes back in, ready to do it, and the ladder is gone. Shinn's line, if you're willing to do the thing you're afraid of, you often don't have to. She says, the lion takes its fierceness from your fear. Walk toward it, and it disappears. Run, and it chases you. Same law, other direction. She says, so long as you resist a situation, you'll keep it with you. If you run from it, it runs after you. She had a student who said, that's exactly what happened to me. I hated how critical and controlling my mother was. So I ran and got married young, and I married my mother. My husband was exactly like her. The situation doesn't follow you because life is cruel. It follows you because you're still emotionally hooked to it. Part 5. Dig the ditches. Okay, payoff time. This is the story that made this book famous. 3 kings march their armies into the desert. They run out of water. Men dying, animals dying, no clouds, no wind, nothing coming. They go to the prophet Elisha, and he gives them the strangest instruction. You will not see wind, you will not see rain, but dig this valley full of ditches. So these exhausted, dehydrated soldiers start digging trenches in dry dust for water that has no visible reason to exist. Next morning, flash flood, every ditch filled. And Shinn's summary of it is the single most useful sentence in the entire book. She says, the average person wants to see the wind and the rain before he digs his ditches. But the law is, dig your ditches first, and then expect the water. She calls this active faith, and she gives you real examples of what it looks like. There's a woman apartment hunting in New York during a housing shortage. Hundreds of applicants per unit, everyone telling her it's hopeless. And her reasoning mind says, don't buy new blankets, you probably won't get a place. And she says out loud, I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets. She got the apartment, 200 other applicants. Another woman, broke at Christmas, no money for gifts. Shinn tells her, don't sit there being pathetic about last year. Go buy the wrapping paper and the ribbon and the tags. Dig your ditches. She bought them. Days before Christmas, a gift of several $100s came in. She bought every present with time to spare. Buying the ribbon didn't manifest the money. Buying the ribbon proved the expectation. And the subconscious moves on evidence, not intention. So the question the book leaves you with is uncomfortably simple. What are you asking for right now that you've made zero physical preparation for? Part 6. Casting the burden. Fast, but don't skip it. Shinn says a burden is any adverse thought or condition you're carrying. and that trying to fix it with your reasoning mind almost never works, because the reasoning mind is the thing that's full of doubt in the first place. So her method is to hand it upward. Her actual phrasing is, "I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free." Use whatever language works for you. The mechanic is what matters. You stop white-knuckling the outcome, and the pressure drops. And she says something I found weirdly comforting, that right before the big shift, things often get worse. Everything seems to go wrong. Deep discouragement. She calls it the old doubts and fears of the ages, rising to the surface to be put out. Darkest before the dawn isn't a cliché in this book. It's a stage of the process. She also says demonstrations often show up at the 11th hour, because that's finally the moment the person lets go and stops reasoning. Part 7. The Square of Life. So what are we actually playing for? Shinn says the game is completed when you have all four: health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. She calls it the square of life. Lose one corner, and the square isn't a square. And that fourth one, self-expression, she treats as your actual destiny. Her words, "There is a place you are to fill that no one else can fill, something you are to do that no one else can do." She says most people are chasing things that don't even belong to them and would bring dissatisfaction if they got them. She also says something beautiful about how it arrives. The thing you seek is seeking you. The telephone was seeking Bell. So, 100 years later, here's what she left us. Life isn't a battle, it's a game. Your imagination is cutting out your future right now, whether you're watching it or not. Your words are laws you're writing for yourself. What you resist, you keep, and you dig the ditches before you see the rain. Her own summary of the rules was 3 words: fearless faith, non-resistance, and love. If this landed with you, the best thing you can do is pick one, just one, and run it for 7 days. I'd start with the words, because it's the easiest one to catch yourself doing. And if you know somebody who's been treating their life like a battle lately, you know exactly who. Send them this one. That's all I'll ask. I'll see you in the next one.